My name is Jürgen Steinmetz with Livestream.travel, reporting for eTurboNews and Hawaii News Online. Today I attended a press conference in front of Honolulu Hale, what is the mayor's office in Honolulu, the capital of Hawaii, and Mayor Kirk Caldwell from Honolulu County, what is the island of Oahu, gave an update on the latest in getting ready for visitors coming back to the island of Oahu and to the state of Hawaii. Today is October 8th. Visitors are expected to arrive October 15th, and there has been a lot of talk and a lot of speculation whether this date, October 15th, could be followed. The mayor, however, today assured that he doesn't expect any delays. Everyone should be getting ready, and he explained the restrictions and also the testing procedures. There have been a lot of talk about 2 tests or 1 test required. The mayor from the island of Hawaii, the big island, is not opting into a pre-test procedure that visitors can get a test 3 days before they arrive. This mayor on the big island is still requiring a 2-week quarantine for anyone coming in. The island of Oahu is different. Mayor Caldwell said he would prefer 2 tests, but he's going to live with a 1 test requirement. And this is the same message in Kauai. Kauai already purchased 15,000 second tests, and then Governor Ige said it wasn't required. So now Kauai is going along with this without a second test. And in Maui, the message was kind of bizarre. The Maui mayor related that he's not enforcing it, but he's requesting tourists to get a second test after the 4th day of their arrival. What, of course, in my opinion, a tourist wouldn't do. You are coming to Hawaii to have a good time and not to be tested constantly. However, when asked Mayor Caldwell today why they wait 4 days for the test or why it takes 4 days for results, he corrected me, and this is something new I learned, that the period between the first test visitors get when they arrive and the second test within 4 days after they arrive actually covers an important period where visitors are contagious and you can see better and more accurate results. The mayor will explain this in this podcast. I also asked the mayor about the latest initiative by the World Travel and Tourism Council to bring top private industry together with governments at the G20 in Saudi Arabia. And I suggested that Hawaii is a good model in the world, being an island and having been closed for tourism for such a long time. And the mayor has its opinion on this. So enjoy the podcast, and if you have any questions after this, feel free to click on contact at eTurboNews.com, at hawaiinews.online, or at livestream.travel.
Could you reiterate what is the county's mandate in regard to masks, and how does Oahu plan to enforce that when visitors start arriving next week?
So one is, on the island of Oahu for many, many months now, you're required to wear a mask indoors everywhere until you sit at your desk or you get to where you have to go. Indoors everywhere. When you go shopping, whether it be retail or in a government building or a private office building, masks all the time. Outdoors, like right now I don't have mine on, but we're 6 feet apart. But should I come closer than 6 feet, it's the law. You must put on your face covering. And I see a lot of folks who are jogging or walking, their mask is on their chin, but as they get close, it goes up, goes down. And I think that gives me a certain comfort, that people are following these protocols. The enforcement relies, one, I think it falls on each of us. That's where the virus is everywhere. We can't be everywhere, but you and your station, your viewers can all make sure you're wearing your face coverings in your station, and you do. And when you're outdoors, putting it on if you come close to each other. The other thing is it's incumbent on us to remind others, starting with our own ohana, right? Wear your face covering. Hey, you don't have your face covering on. And then the last resort is the police department warning people, and if they don't comply with the warning, perhaps citing them. We hope we don't need to do that. Now, visitors are coming on shore, and they may not know about all these protocols, but we will enforce equally against everybody. We're not going to give visitors a pass and just enforce it against residents. And so we have reached out to the visitor industry, and I'm going to be having a conference call with them shortly to talk to them, but we've already had our staff reach out to them to say it's incumbent on you, starting with our airlines who bring folks in, to our hotels who welcome people, that we have special protocols on Oahu because of our caseload, and we're in tier 1, which means you can't have gatherings more than 5 on a beach, and you got to make sure it's just 5. That if you go to a restaurant, you have to be of the same family unit or living unit, that there are no bars open, no nightclubs open. And so your experience here on Oahu is going to be a little different than pre-pandemic. And our partners in the visitor industry need to do that job.
Sorry. Mayor, tonight our organization, Rebuilding.Travel, will be facilitating a Zoom conference with the World Travel and Tourism Council CEO. Today, the World Travel and Tourism Council announced a tremendous partnership between the G20 heads of states, between the United Nations World Tourism Organization and His Majesty the King of Saudi Arabia, who is actually hosting the G20. And what is the first time in the history is that 45 CEOs of the most largest and major tourism companies like Marriott and so forth are part of this discussion and this group. So we're looking forward having this discussion. Of course, anyone is invited to public to be this. But my question is, at the same time, that is meeting news. What just came out minutes ago, I saw while I was standing here, that today was the highest increase in numbers for COVID-19 globally. Now, it looks like the tourism industry with the top players, the G20 heads of state, are trying to fight this balance now in a global arena between what to do and what to do next, how to safely open. We're in a very unique place here in Hawaii because we can obviously control the numbers the more we shut down. Now we wanted to open up. Now with the discussion of 1 or 2 testings and everything else, how do you think this balance could be translated? Because really, I think Hawaii is a leader in this global project, and many people are looking at Hawaii. I know I brought it up many times. So I think people are watching us.
Good question. I always like you come at things from a global perspective, and G20, an incredibly important group of leaders from First Nations. And I think they're talking about tourism because tourism is a gigantic industry on our planet, one of the top industries. And so they're bringing it up, these G20 countries, because they recognize the only way they're going to get back to a stronger economy is you have to allow visitors to travel and come in. Now, that's easy to say that. The difficulty is how do you do it safely? And you are right. I think Hawaii can be an example to the world on how to do it safely. We in Hawaii have looked at other island nations like Tahiti, French Polynesia, looking at Iceland, who were leaders in opening up to visitors and doing multiple testing, 2 testing regimes. And we're seeing in both of those island nations, an increasing number of cases. Tahiti opened up to visitors, they had 0 cases. And they had like they don't have a lot of visitors coming, about 300. 1 tested positive, but they had 1,400 cases with a 2-test program. And we're looking to see what we can learn from them. And one thing we are told is that they opened up, and it wasn't so much the visitors that brought the virus, it's that when they opened up to visitors, the Tahitians got more relaxed and thought, okay, things are going back to the way it was, and let's go to the hotels, not to stay, but have lunch and hang out and have fun and not wear our face coverings and not sit far enough apart, and they started spreading the virus. We don't want to do that. That's what this press conference is about. We cannot let our guards down as the visitors come back to celebrate life here. And so, to your point, Jurgen, I think that we can set the right example. And I think the pre-test program is a great step in the right direction. Dr. Fauci recognizes that. 80% of those who may be contagious will be tested and found out, and they won't come. 20% continue to come. And so we are talking, the mayors and the governor, about how's it is Lisa's a friendly guy. Is how do you do a second test? And how do you do it in a way that it logistically works and you have sufficient capacity? And I think we'll get there. And I think there's time to get there, because while we open up on the 15th, Rams, I don't think you're going to have a flood of people coming in. It's going to be a slow rollout. We'll learn from the pre-test program. We have to have our safe travels up and running, so we know who's quarantined and who's not. We'll work that out. And then we get testing capacity in place to do a second test. Now, I prefer a second test to like the other mayors do, but I would not require a quarantine for another 4 days. One test, show up, go in quarantine, another day, second test. But there'd be a second test 4 days later, in which if you tested positive, we would then contact trace. And part of this getting out of quarantine would be you have to agree to download an app, a tracing app. So we knew where you went around Oahu during those 4 days. And then we would be adding greater protection, finding those who are positive, making sure they stay quarantined in the hotel, finding out where they went, and getting information as to how many people are actually getting through. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, if you look at the test and the 4 day later, what I'm really puzzled is if you look at other countries that are in similar situations, look at the Seychelles, for example. These tests are instant. We have instant tests. United Airlines announced it a few weeks ago for $250, and I think Hawaiian Airlines only charges $160 in San Francisco. You get the result right away. Why do we have to wait 4 days? We're not in the third world here. The third world is really a step ahead of us.
So I want to clarify that we're not saying it takes 4 days to get your test results. Our medical doctors who advise us here at the city, and then of course Department of Health, are saying that it's from when you get infected to when you start to shed, and sometimes it takes a period of time. So 3 days prior you get your first test. 4 days later is 7 total days, and they're saying on average, that's when you're most contagious. That's when you're shedding the most. So the second test would pick up those people who slipped through, because when they got their first test, they weren't shedding. So they did not pick up that they're actually positive. So the 7 day period catches more people. So it's not the test turnaround. And you are right, we want to use the rapid antigen test. Supply is a challenge, right? The whole world wants that test. And they're wrapping it up, but we don't all have it. And when we have it, that will be the ideal situation.
Yeah, we are a week out from, the pre-testing program relaunching tourism and everything. Where does the city and county stand in its level of preparations for that date right now? Is it ready to go right now if it needed to?
I would say that we're working to be ready by next week. We continue to interface with Doug Murdoch, who is the guy who's doing the Safe Travels app, because we do need that to know who's in quarantine and who isn't. Some people will come in, got the test, but they don't have the result. They got a quarantine. And when they have the result, we need to know, because it's going to fall on HPD to find quarantine breakers should they be reported. And so we need that information digitally and immediately. And they're getting there. So we got to test the system a bit. We're going to be testing it starting early next week, one more time. And then the pre-test program, right? Actually testing at the airport, and how does that work? And coming through DKI International Airport is something they're going to do a test scenario starting early next week as before they go into Thursday. So I think we're getting there, but I wouldn't say everything's done and everything's 100% addressed.
As the follow-up to that, then, what would be your message to travelers and businesses who are already thinking, there might be another delay to this, we're going to have to wait again?
No, I wouldn't say I don't see how we could delay again. I think all systems go. I don't think anyone's talking about delaying. The 15th of October is the date to bring people back in a pre-test program. And by the way, I think it's better to have people come in tested than they're coming in right now with no test and in quarantine and probably breaking quarantine. So I think it's all systems go for the 15th. And I don't want any one of your viewers to think that somehow, as mayor, I'm saying we should delay that date. I don't think anyone, I'm not hearing that from anyone. I'm not hearing from the other mayors or the governor or lieutenant governor. It's how do you make sure that when they start arriving, that everything is working 100%, if there's such a goal that we can achieve.
Do you like livestream.travel and would you like to have your own 30 to 60 second spot in our podcast series? Yes, you can do this. The costs start from just $100. Contact us, go to livestream.travel and click on contact and we'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you for your support.